First things first, Hal and Renata, thank you very much for your very insightful presentations, very important topics. And I would like to also now introduce quickly Lindsay Zingg. Lindsay, maybe you can say a few words about yourself to the audience.
Sure, so thank you very much for is it working, the microphone? Yeah, I have a loud voice, so normally I don't need a microphone, but it's good it's working. Lindsay Zingg, yeah, I'm the head of sustainability for Georg Fischer. So we have quite similar in a way. I mean, you construct the buildings, we eat ice cream and have perfume in the property, and Georg Fischer is the one who provides the heating and cooling in your homes. We have the water coming in and out, and also in cities, we provide the piping for the flow solutions. So we're kind of quite connected with that. I've been in sustainability since about growing up with it, since the whole sort of topic started. And yeah, we're starting as well on this biodiversity journey. So looking forward to the panel discussion. I'm Scottish, we have a Brazilian and you're Norwegian, or yeah, so it's very international today. So yeah, we have some more British people here as well. So, yeah.
So maybe Lindsay, maybe you want to kick off. Maybe you can say a few words about Georg Fischer, about the current status in relation to nature-related reporting, where you are within your company, and maybe also what framework you're using right now.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back a bit, biodiversity, when we get into it, GF is already doing science-based targets, we have water targets, so when we start to sort of, I think it was mentioned before, there's a lot of overlaps. So when you try to explain to your CEO, I mean, I report to the CFO, we need to do something on biodiversity, I think companies are sort of struggling to translate what is biodiversity. It's been used a lot, this word. So when we break it down, we have got our CO2 science-based targets, we have got our net zero, we have water targets. So what we did was really assess what do we have already in place. So assessing that, and then we did our double materiality, so that's also coming from CSRD. And then, like you mentioned, we integrated the risk process into ERM. So it's almost like biodiversity is just sort of connecting all these different aspects that we had already in the company. We've also done the location-based assessment of our sites, so we're at that stage. And also sort of with our suppliers, you have also your business partner, and we have our code of conduct, so making sure that's there. And now we are into that phase of what framework and the framework we need to go towards. So we're not at the advanced stage yet, we're more assessing what we have. We've started to use a tool for the locations, and now that's the challenge of, we have CSRD, we have science-based targets, we have TFND, and there's all these systems out there, so we're now just assessing the frameworks we want to use, and I think it's maybe later on one of the challenges, but yeah. So we're well on our way, but not quite yet, the full framework.
Hal, would you like to add something, maybe say something about the current stages where you are in the company with Givaudan?
When it comes to frameworks?
Yes, frameworks, and in general, so nature-related reporting, yeah.
You just saw some of the elements that I showcased today. I would say that the main framework we use is GRI. What I would stress as the most important thing is to have whatever you do externally assured.
Yeah.
We have this for more than a decade today. It's something that is coming with CSRD, etc. But it helps you having a methodology and an approach that is that continuous improvement is hardwired. You do a management review with the assurance, the findings, what works, what doesn't work. So you have like an iterative approach. So this is even more important than the framework. But until CSRD and ESRS takes over, we are going to continue with GRI, the global reporting initiative that covers pretty well biodiversity in ecosystems and connectivity with the other topics.
Okay. Renata?
I think we are very advanced, as you guys can see, when you just check the annual report. Holcim is reporting nature dependencies, impacts since many, many years, was missing the risks and opportunities. Now we have them. I do think what's missing in this arena is something like the greenhouse gas protocol, like something how to measure a standardized approach on how to measure biodiversity. It could be sector-based, same thing as we have in the greenhouse gas protocol, but this is lacking, and I think that's make the life of investors and who, some people that like the area to compare companies, to compare like, same companies in the same sector, but also companies in different sectors, because, the way that we are measuring biodiversity maybe is a different way that you guys are measuring Givaudan is a different way. So it's, I think it's, for me, it's what's missing, like, overall. But I think Holcim is pretty advanced on this space of reporting.
Okay. Well, I mean, speaking of measuring biodiversity, I mean, that's a big challenge. Obviously, what key steps should companies, in your view, should take to ensure accurate measurement and reporting of their impact on local ecosystems and biodiversity? What have you learned? What have you learned? What is your advice on measuring biodiversity? Maybe.
I mean,
Lindsay?
First of all, I think is having the governance. So I think that was mentioned before. I mean, we have to have this strong governance from the top. So our chairman actually is in charge of sustainability in our company. I report into the board of directors. So having this strong governance, first of all, and then setting up a centralized data system. So not that every single site can do their data reporting differently. So having your own internal standards. This was very important to us, so centralizing the data. And also, like you said, limited assurance. So this also gives you that reputational, that the data is being checked, it's being audited, and it's of a good source. I mean, again, biodiversity, the CO2, then you've got your science-based targets methodology, that part. We've got our water consumption, so how we measure that. So all this is collected centrally, and then ensuring that the sites are trained, that the data is collected, that we do quality control checks, and that we report it in a report with limited assurance. But I think it's very important to all speak the same language in an organization and not allow any deviation. That a site says, we have it this way and we do it this way. No, this is the centralized approach for reporting, and we have to stick to that one. And the limited assurance is a good driver, because the sites are like, we're going through assurance. As an auditor, we're a bit nervous, so we have to make it very accurate. But this was one of the best things we did in our company.
Okay. Hal, we've heard strong governance, centralized data systems. What is your view on measuring biodiversity?
I will add two critical success factors. The first is to understand that and realize and acknowledge that you cannot really measure biodiversity, but you can measure evolution of leading indicators. So leading indicators, what matters, meaning reducing pressure on nature helps you go in the right direction. The concept of leading indicator is something that robots and all the ESG rating things do not like, because it's not impact. So that leading indicators is the way to go. There's no doubt about it. Second is skill set. We have dedicated agronomists that their business is to manage living things. I'm an engineer. I can learn fast for sure, but I'm not an agronomist. So it's about a good distribution of understanding, capabilities, and humility when it comes to living things.
Absolutely. Okay. Renata?
Yeah. Maybe a few things also to add. There are many tools out there that is helping companies to measure biodiversity or ecosystem services or year impact and so on. So, like, for example, we have STAR, which is IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature tool, that's measuring species under threat. We have now, I think, if you guys are aware, the eDNA, so it's the environmental DNA that's measuring the DNA of animals and plants that, there is a sample collections, and then you can measure, what were the animals that were there or are there. But all of these methodologies, they have limitations. So for me, it's very important that when the company selects a methodology that transparently disclose which is the methodology that the company is using. For example, we are using BEERS, which is the Biodiversity Indicator and Reporting System. It's a methodology that was developed together with IUCN again some years ago, but still very relevant. And that basically, and we transparently disclose. And I think an important thing is it's also related to having not only the assurance, but if it's possible, to have a third party that's very credible working with you on this analysis. For example, we have a partnership with IUCN. So they are like our sounding board. Anything we want to do, we ask, what do you think? Can we do that way? Or can we do? And they give a lot of great feedbacks because they are a credible organization nature.
Yeah.
So we do have this
That's
partnership, and they will help. So not only limited assurance or assurance for the annual report, but also have like a credible partner. I think helps a lot.
To bring in that external, because none of us are actually in the team experts, so we also have a partner on this biodiversity. We had a tool to do all of our site locations, and this really is, I would say, good advice. So consultants are of benefit, or partners like this. It was a big benefit.
Yeah, because, it's many tools out there. So it's like, so they somehow, maybe you don't know the limitation, but there are. There are limitations. So some things you are measuring, some things you're not measuring. And then you need to know what are these limitations, to be able to also try to fix these gaps, or also, when you are reporting to make sure that you tell the right story.
We internalized our expertise on these topics.
Yeah, we've started that now, yes.
And going back to the measurement thing, one of my biggest aha moments when I talked about the measuring biodiversity, when we started to get really serious about it, I was talking with Nicolas, an excellent agronomist in Givaudan, and I asked him, how are we going to measure these things? I say, if you want to measure soil health, I say, yes, soil health, how does it work? So you have just one methodology that is truly internationally recognized. It's the underwear test.
Underwear test?
I said, what? I said, yeah, it's underwear test. It's real. You take a cotton underwear, a test du slip in French. You take a slip underwear in cotton, you bury it, and you look at it after a week, a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years, how fast it disappears. If it disappears, it means it has been attacked by a living organism. It means that your soil is healthy. That's the only scientific measure today of soil health. So we are zillion people in the room. I rely on my agronomist to tell me how to do it.
There's a challenge for everyone you go home to bury your underwear for 1 week and see how it is. And then we come back to your report.
Look it up. Look it up. It's a test du slip in French, the underwear test. You remember that one, I'm for sure.
Yes, I'll remember that. Now, speaking of different kind of measurements, different reporting tools, eDNA, test du sleep, and so on, beers, that needs a lot of talent and expertise that you need to gather from different places, from all over the world. What are the skill sets that you need from internally, from providers? What needs to be developed? Where do you need more know-how? How do you manage that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think one of the things we challenged with was the amount of different IT providers that were approaching us, and like you mentioned, the limitations. So that was a challenge. And then what to do with that data. So we have all of this site data from all of our locations, and then to get that sort of actions and mitigations. If you have a site that's potentially close to a species that could be extinct, what are you doing? How do you mitigate it? So that external sort of scientific part, I think we missed a bit. But with and also the IT systems, I mean, you can get so lost. I mean, on LinkedIn, I think there's a lot of providers approaching you and saying, this tool, and then this is what you can get, and this is what you can assess. So really, I think to take the time and get the expertise from externally to really assess what's there. I've seen companies are actually wasting their money, and they get some data that they can't do anything with. So I think it's very important to take the time on assessing and choosing maybe these IT platforms. And like you said, bringing the expertise internally. I think having that data expert, like some of people in your team, these scientific experts, is coming now. Sustainability is no longer, You know, when I started 20 years ago, recycling paper and, oh, there she comes with her light switches going off. If you look fast forward where we are now, you actually need a bit of, I mean, my background's chemistry, and I kind of feel a bit of my chemistry coming in again, but sustainability roles have changed so much that the whole team, I mean, if you recruit now, I'm not going to look for someone who's just CO2, it might be the scientific part, so I think it's a different topic, but I think the whole area of sustainability teams is changing anyway. So we have to look at the different expertise for biodiversity, CO2, all those different topics. Yeah, I think it's changed.
Hal and Renata, do you have something that you would like to add to that?
I can add, I'm lucky I have the best team in the world. So
I think I have. Yeah, mine's good too.
It's not a competition.
Yeah,
it's
I'm joking. It's good. It's good.
I think beyond the expertise, I think that's very important. But I would add it's the capabilities of putting things into motion. I think the sustainability, the problem of sustainability is like you can look at it forever and just confirm your initial reading of the situation, but you haven't done anything. So I think the ability to put things in motion is the rarest skill you can find in sustainability leads. So you need to know, understand, be synthetic with your approach, convince, but do. Yeah. Knowing is not good enough. Doing is...
To leadership is...
Oh, yeah.
It needs strong leadership, 100%. And convince...
If you don't have battle scars, you haven't done your job,
correct.
a proper job.
I think one thing is an experience I had while working for Holcim is that we are working very closely with finance, more and more. I do think it's important to have a technical expertise in biodiversity, in water, whatsoever, but also a business acumen.
Absolutely.
So it's this finance and sustainability working together. I see a lot of value working with these guys because I'm learning a lot from them. They're also learning a lot from us. We are integrating all our data into finance, SIP, it's all there. So it's like at the same level, same quality. They do our controls. So I think it's important to have like a combination of technical expertise, but also a finance business acumen. I think that brings a lot to the table.
We've actually just done that. We've taken someone from finance into sustainability to exactly that, and we report into the CFO, which was a change 3 years ago when I joined. And I think fully agree with that one. And investor team as well. I mean, you're going to investors, you're going with that team. It's all linked. Our products as well, they have to be sustainable. R&D, it's kind of intertwined throughout. And it's not just a sustainability team. I think a good organization has this integrated within finance, within R&D, innovation. It has to be the whole organization now. So it can't be that team sitting in the corner that deals with everything. It's the whole.
Because, I mean, at the end, it's nice, green and nature, it's everybody loves, but unfortunately, at the end, it's
finance.
Okay, finance, what's the risk, what's the opportunity there? The CEO will ask, and the CFO will ask, the board of directors, they will ask, so I think it's really important to make these connections.
So you need basically the people who come from science need a bit of a business and finance acumen for the shareholders, the stakeholders, but also vice versa.
Correct.
So a bigger view.
Especially to understand the cost of not doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, on that note, maybe we can open up the floor for the audience. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, I do see 2 hands. Maybe you can turn first. You have introduced yourself already, Kieran.
Hi, everyone. This is actually a perfect timing for this question because I actually want to ask you this specific one. Renata, you had mentioned 26% of your assets are in water-stressed areas, and you rely significantly on water. It was also mentioned that you were, what's the word? You don't rely on monoculture, but you rely on, say, regenerative agriculture. How do you assess the financial implications of that being a better decision, in hyperbole, than just using a monoculture, for instance? Like, how are you able to justify the decisions that you've made, one, to protect nature, because it's a normative thing that you ought to do, but also from the financial side, that business acumen saying this is actually better for our business if we do conduct this practice? And do you consider that to kind of get buy-in or, say, support?
Yeah.
So
You can start. And then
Just on the regenerative agriculture, so we are ramping up our capabilities. So we are not in the commodity business, meaning we only use iconic raw materials like lavender. We don't use corn. We will buy some corn and some extracts, some ethanol derived from these commodities, but we don't have like gigantic fields. So you ask the business rationale. I think we can, the simplest way to do it is we have climate targets. We live in the same planet as you are. The world is not going in the right direction, and we need to cut emissions. We have a Scope 3 climate roadmap, and for Scope 3, as half of our raw materials are coming from natural ecosystems, we have dedicated flag targets, forest, land, and agriculture. And regenerative agriculture practices, as well as deforestation conversion-free supply chains, are two gigantic blocks in our climate roadmap. In Givaudan, we have never missed a target, and we are not going to start with climate. So that's why it's one of the most powerful levers to cut emissions and to have a more robust and resilient supply chain. History will tell, how much, looking back, how much was driven by voluntary commitment versus survival. But either way, cost of not doing is immense. So either you plan it or you face the truth in a decade from now. Either way, it's either a cost or an investment. And we are more, 250 years of existence showed us that doing the right things right and planning ahead gives the best benefit over time. But it doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah. It's very similar to Holcim. So for example, on the water topic, we, as I mentioned in the presentation, we are dependent on fresh water to produce our products. This is like, for me, it's like, what? I don't understand, but I'm fighting, and we are step by step. But basically, and we had to close many sites on these 26% of sites because there were not water available. So we are losing production. So that's basic calculation, how much production you're losing, how much revenue then, because you cannot sell. If you don't have, if you cannot produce it, don't sell. And then, so let's invest in not using fresh water. Let's shift fresh water to, for example, non-fresh water. So that basically we are doing this in many of these 26 sites that we are treating. We are partner maybe with beverage industry. We take their water, we treat this water, and then we use in our own operations. So we're not extracting from rivers or groundwater. That's one lever. Another lever that we have is that, in particular, in sites that are having high amounts of precipitations in a short time, we are collecting rainwater, and we are also using this to avoid flooding and so on. We are using also this. And the third lever is about also optimizing site usage, like water in sites, so adding recycling systems, fixing leakages, and so on and so forth. So, but basically, the calculation is, okay, if we don't have the water, or if we don't have the same amounts, how much production we are losing? And then, consequently, what's the revenue that we're going to lose? And that's, again, it's an investment that we have this, our business is going to be sustainable in the long run because we are dependent. As we are depending on limestone, it's the same thing for water. And we know that we have issues in some sites. So that's all. I always bring the sites, to talk to the business leaders also to see, look, it's happening there, it may happen. It's not happening for you, but tomorrow, today not, but tomorrow it may happen. So better we invest now to fix, to mitigate this, and you have then a long-term business in the future.
I forgot to add something that was absolutely critical. I should have started with it. We are B2B, business to business, and our big customers have science-based targets.
I was gonna say
if we don't improve, they will
Yeah.
not going to improve their Scope 3. So they are counting on us to bring solutions. So that's, it becomes, I'm not saying table stakes, but expectations. And when we do work on regenerative agriculture, we reflect the work in our emission factor in the ingredient, transferred into PCF reduction, product carbon footprint at formula level, that goes to our customers, that could not just claim, but they will integrate progress we have made in their
Yes.
scope 3.
And they're pushing for that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a license to do business now. If
Yeah.
a company thinks they can't have a sustainability products, they're not going to be in the long run. They're not going to be here. So any CEO now who stands there and says he doesn't believe it's important, well, let's see where you are in 10,
Yeah.
15 years, because it's the customers as well. Our
Yeah.
customers are pushing us.
And also connect to that, also customers, but also policies, regulation. Because, you know, in the sector, I mean, there are codes, building codes. We need to follow some parameters. The concrete needs to have these strengths, whatever, to do this type of building or this infrastructure. And many building codes do not allow if you cannot not use fresh water.
So it's coming, yeah.
So it's like, and we are showing that is the same strength of the concrete. If we are using a waste water treated, it's the same. So we are. It's traditional, you know, business. So we need to the safe. It's very safe. So it's not that you know, we are ruining the safety of the building or the infrastructure. So we are step by step also trying to showcase these examples in some pilots. But yeah. There's some bottlenecks, yes.
I think we had another question. Is that okay, Benoit? It's okay, good. Then we have a question over there. Could you just maybe quickly say your name and the company that you work for? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm from Nala Earth. And I actually wanted to touch upon the opportunities a little bit. I recently had a chat with the head of nature of ING, a Dutch bank. And she told me she was desperately looking to deploy money in terms of bonds that are nature linked. So they did like a 1 billion bond with Heineken, and I think it was coupled to water targets, and you both have very, very good water targets. And what it allowed them to do is to have like 50 basis points a year costs reduction in cost of debt. And then with 1 billion, we talk about like 50 millions a year, right? Like we talk about massive reduction in cost of financing. And we work with a lot of companies, right? And I feel like selling nature is hard. It's like, okay, yeah, that costs, that's another tool. There is a billion tools. There's like, and quantifying the risks is difficult, but maybe there is a massive opportunity in actually just getting the financing right. And I was wondering where you stand, because I think, Holcim, you have had this sustainability-linked bonds in Scope 3, right?
For climate and also water.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
2025 is the target here, so that I know. No, with that, we did this once. I'm not sure if we are going to continue. I don't know if there are many mechanisms like that, I mean, to be honest, in the market.
Yeah. We have a revolving credit line of 1.25 billion indexed on the nature element of Scope 1, 2, and 3 reductions. And if we don't progress biodiversity, we don't reduce Scope 3, so it's interlinked.
And we're starting a green bond to assess that, what you exactly said, to look at doing that already this June. So we start the green bond process then. So it's new for us.
Yeah, but you cannot really borrow money if you don't have anything related to the environment. At least until last time I checked on it. I'm not sure with the world changing a bit upside down these days if it continues, but it's pretty straightforward, you know. It's
but
about de-risking.
But more on climate, right?
Yeah,
less on nature.
Climate.
That's the thing. I think they should. I would like to see more of these mechanisms for nature, like water, biodiversity, all the
Not
elements,
just
like
climate.
soil health, whatever, you know. But yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah.
Yes, it's a good point.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Thank you. Please say your name and the company you work for.
Yes. Does it work? Yes. Benoit Passuelo from Elma Electronics. Glad you mentioned that the link with finance sustainability. In our company, we do group strategy and sustainability together, right? So it's one function. A question linked to what you mentioned about the financial element, since we are also surrounded by a financial organization. So about measurement of the key, let's say, items that are impacting the business when there is that EBIT 5%, I'm referring to Holcim. what are the assumptions behind that matrix? You say 5%, okay, and then there is a time element, right? So do you have a time element? What are the assumptions behind so that we can say this is a risk? And what are the variability that are bringing a meaningful message, right? Because it's so easy to get lost in assumption on top of the assumption, and then having the discussion with the finance or the product leaders or both, and then in the context of more climate change or climate crisis rather, and more element that is outside the control of the company.
So many questions. I mean, on the EBIT, so basically this is how we are measuring the risk at Holcim. Both 10% of EBIT, it's a high risk, between 5 and 10, medium, less than 5, low. Then your point was on the, sorry, can you repeat on
the
how
assumption, so assumption and the timeline that you are.
Yeah, the timeline.
Because when we see that matrix of, like the double materiality, when, we are all doing, let's say similar approach, effectively what's the quantitative aspect behind that and the assumption to come to this conclusion, and then the timeline.
Yeah. So assumptions, it's country to country. So they have their own assumptions, and this is all written also in our annual report. But in terms of timelines, it's 2030. So it was current impacts, 2030 and 2050, what we measured. Okay,
so medium to long term.
So you have near,
near
and
long
then
term.
long term. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Scenario
yes,
analysis.
there is exactly.
That's what we use.
Exactly. There is one that's a specific. It's in the annual report. I don't remember by heart, but it's in the footnotes in this table that I had one screenshot of this. It's there, which one it is. But I know it's 2030 and 2050, and the current one. That's the three that we measure. Mm-hmm.
We do about the same process, but as we base everything on the enterprise risk management, the thresholds are the same for the rest, and we check, for example, on the time frame is the WEF, report on the risks, and then we provide a correspondence table. But the idea is to always refer to what is known in the enterprise risk management. And it
that was the best approach we did, was to integrate the two, because if you have these two separate,
it's game over.
It's game over, and the company was like, well, she has sustainability risks, and then we have the business risk. What's the timeline? What's the threshold? So we did exactly the same as you, and last year we fully integrated it, and that was much easier to then have one methodology, one threshold, one timeline. So the exact same approach.
And one thing we discussed also with the risk management thing, they say you need to change a bit your title. It's not the risk management phase, risk and opportunity now function, because we now added the opportunities for nature, which we didn't have for climate though. Now we have. So it's an interesting change in mindset. They were a bit like, okay, how is that? I had to explain to them how STNFD, how they are approaching opportunities, and we managed at the end, but
Thank you. One last question. I will have plenty, but just the last one. In terms of regulation, right? So you are large companies. On this biodiversity/nature topic, how involved are you with the regulators or Brussels to influence in a positive way, of course, the regulation? That is sometimes far away from business issues and scientific issues.
You guys want to start?
I can start. We don't do lobbying
we
such.
Neither.
We participate in a forum called the Value of Beauty, just to highlight also the importance of our industry. It's just to explain what it is, because it's it's not that known. It's more on being explicit with what it is, what's behind, how it works, to ensure the regulators don't have a black and white process with the big companies, commodity driven, and something else. And we are really in the iconic space, in the iconic raw materials. The biodiversity framework are designed for the big gigantic companies that have cut forest and planted monoculture. I cannot tick the box that I haven't done it. We are not in this space, so I'm not sure how to talk about these things. So it's more explaining.
Same here.
Explaining is
Yeah.
important.
Mhm.
We at Holcim, we have it's like not an affirmation, but we want to have strict policies on nature. That's, it's a given for us. And when was in 2022, during the COP15, the COP Biodiversity COP in 15 in Montreal, I went there, and we have a partner with, the name is Business for Nature, and they are working with, authorities and governments, and basically we signed with them a pledge for the authorities or governments or the countries to ratify the Target 15, which makes mandatory for companies and financial institutions to measure and disclose impact, dependence, risk, and opportunities on nature. So that was the way that we engaged, like through this partner, which signed this pledge, and at the end it was ratified, this Target 15. So it's, I think, one of the 23 targets that's really related to business. And basically the target says that we need to assess and disclose nature risks, opportunities, impacts, and dependencies. Yes. But we do have also a public affairs team, but I think it's nothing.
Not for lobbying.
No,
No,
not for lobbying. No.
We had one in taxonomy because it was very difficult for our industry,
Yeah.
and we felt it a bit unfair because we're so sustainable. So we then were trying to lobby a more taxonomy specific for our industry, because the one currently, I don't know how many fans of taxonomy we have here. You are? Okay,
Yeah,
cool. We were a bit, it didn't give us the benefits because our industry was not well represented. So there we did get closer, and we've built a forum of everyone in our industry to try and lobby this one a bit, because there's a taxonomy, we have to do it, we have to do all the data for it, but it's not benefiting us. It's not showing that we're green, and we are. We're really doing a lot, and this was a bit of a negative for us. So we try and lobby and improve that regulator there on taxonomy. Yeah.
And can I add, sometimes I have some aha moments when I realize that many don't even understand where 1.5 degrees come from in the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement was not coming from tree huggers. It was the Finance Stability Board. I like trees, by the way. But it's the Finance Stability Board, the G20. They say that the climate crisis is a financial crisis in the making.
Yeah.
But we all forgot about it, type of thing. It's not a greenish thing. It's about the climate crisis is becoming a financial crisis, but we tend to collectively forget about it.
Now, with this in mind, I want to be conscious of time. I would like to thank you for being here, for your input. It's very valuable. And you will be able then to afterwards then to talk to them in the networking part. Thank you, Renata, Hal, and Lindsay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.